Hi, everybody, and welcome to the second in our series of webinars on tech as a target market. We're in partnership with the FCAA. We are Wingman Insurance, and for many of you that I've met, I'm looking forward to moving forward in this process of showing you guys how great it can be to write tech business. And there's no better person that I know that can help you along in the process than our speaker today. His name is Phil Feldman, or as I like to call him, Dad. And he has been selling and writing tech business for 30 years. He's made a career out of it. He's exceptional at it. And he is here to talk you through some of the basics and answer your questions. So I hope you get a lot out of this. And as with all of our webinars, there is a box on your screen that is for questions. If at any time you have one, please put it in there. I'll be fielding them either throughout or at the end. So keep them coming as you guys tend to do. We're excited to have you. At this point, I turn it over to Phil Feldman.
Thank you, Ellie. Welcome, everyone, and appreciate the opportunity. Ellie is in California, and they're fighting the fires and the smoke out there. I just checked the air quality; is poor things are not so good, and
Not so good.
And on the East Coast, we've got some cold weather, so and some possible mix of snow coming the next day. So, in any event, let's talk insurance. How to market and sell Wingman products. All right, let's go and move right along here. And we're going to talk to you about the Wingman program of coverage that you can use to sell to technology accounts. Now, as Ellie mentioned, this has sort of been my career of working with technology accounts. We were the largest actual we had the largest program insuring technology businesses. We call ourselves a boutique specialist in the country for many years. We had an exclusive program with Chubb, and we put all the coverages together and built this over the last 20 years. And so this has sort of been what I've been doing, and so now we've taken it to a new level in terms of our Wingman products. And I'll go through this what I'll say is the solution to start with, and then we'll go through the details. What you need to do to sell it, what you need to know, and how to go about it. So the solution, we have three basic products. We've got the Wingman 360 product, and the Wingman 360 product is an all-encompassing insurance policy that we call insurance agent E&O proof. Everything the customer may need includes D&O, E&O, EPLI, property liability, everything in one limit. And the limit is $1 million, and it covers all of those items as well as much more. But the reason it's agent E&O proof is it allows you to go into a technology company and tell them you have the only product like this around available today. And it is not only the only product, but it is so broad that no other company or carrier can even come close to matching what we have. So that gives you a leg up in terms of talking to any technology company that you deal with. And then our second product that we're going to talk about is Wingman Tech Errors and Omissions coverage. And Wingman Tech Errors and Omissions is also the broadest policy available today, and it is specific coverage for errors and omissions. And it also includes cyber liability. So it's an errors and omissions policy and a cyber liability policy combined in one for a technology company. And a technology company we like to define as software development company, computer consulting company, any business that relates to the development or implementation of software is what we call a tech company. Consulting companies make up by far and away the largest cadre of these folks, and so keep that in mind. You may look at them as a headhunter. They look at themselves as computer consulting companies, and that's important to note. And our last coverage is Wingman Cyber. And Wingman Cyber is the broadest cyber liability policy available today. It can be not only for technology companies, but it could be for any of your customers. Wingman Cyber is our main product. It is absolutely the most successful product that we have, and and it is something that you have to have in your arsenal. And I will also mention that most carriers will not insure cyber liability for a technology company. So if it's a software development or computer consulting company of any kind, and you go to somebody to write cyber coverage, they're very reluctant to do it, and we do not have that reluctancy. So keep that in mind. All right, so that's our solution. So why are we talking about targeting tech companies? All right, let's start with the fact that it's a $10 billion industry and growing every year. Huge. Every little town has multiple tech companies. Everyone is in need. You have, whether it be the ma and pa computer repair shop, or whether it be the software guy that comes around and fixes businesses and works with their routers and works with gets them set up on in the cloud or whatever it may be. But every town has multiple tech companies, so keep that in mind. No matter where you are, no matter how small your town is, there are technology companies servicing that area. The larger the town, the more there are. It's just a fact. Third fact is that no local agents understand the risks. After today, I hope you understand the risks and can speak the language of these tech companies. But keep in mind, my experience has been that no local agent will understand what this company needs from an insurance standpoint, which means it's an opening for you to go in there and sell. Next, we have account growth can be enormous. These businesses, they don't get smaller typically. They all get larger. Some of them get enormously larger, and you know it. So keep in mind that just by focusing on these and writing these, one in a group will explode. Next, young producers relate very well to startup companies and tech founders because they're all young like they are. So what a track to run on for young producers. So if I have a young producer, I go focus on tech companies, and tech is a very broad range today, and it's growing, and it's a part of everyone's life. So I would send my young producer out doing that. And the last item that I wanted to mention is that every city not only has these companies in them, but they want them. So the cities themselves are out trying to bring these businesses in. So that's why you should target tech companies. All right, again, should you have any questions on any of this, just type it up, send it to Ellie, and Ellie will get with me at the end. All right, how do you go about doing this? Well, there's you start by scouring what we call shared workspaces. Shared workspaces are the WeWorks of the world, the Regus co-working spaces of the world, all of these places. This is a very good area for small computer startup companies to locate because they can rent on a monthly basis. It's very reasonable. They can see how their business is. Are they selling? What do they need to change? They can bounce ideas off different people. And so if you send your young producers there or any of your producers to these workspaces just to sort of walk around and experience them, they will meet people there and it'll be valuable to them. Secondly, you've got to just type the word computer or computer consultant or technology company or anything related to that in Google and focus on your area, and you will come up with all kinds of names for you to call on. And again, they could be within 50 miles of you, and you could get pages and pages of names. So keep that in mind. The Chamber of Commerce, very important. Chamber of Commerce is everywhere. We want to bring in technology companies. They like to cater to technology companies. And most important and very valuable for you to do is to become part of your Chamber of Commerce, seeking out these type of business, but at the same time saying, I am the expert on insuring technology companies, and I'd like to do a seminar at one of your upcoming gatherings. And so this is a great resource for you to market to technology companies. Mine, the local economic development departments. They're all going out. Every little community has an economic development department. They're all going out trying to bring in technology companies. Yeah, they'd love to get manufacturing and all of those things, but the reality is they can sell a way of life with by selling it to a technology company because it doesn't necessarily matter where they're located. And so the economic development departments find this the low-hanging fruit, and they go after it whenever they can. So if you make a relationship or develop a relationship with those folks, that's going to be valuable to you. Next, search the help wanted ads within the online job sites or even within your local newspapers, but you search them not to see what kind of jobs they're looking for, but in the generality type of jobs, anything related to software, you want to find out who is doing the hiring. The firms that are doing the hiring are the firms you want to target. So you go to these help wanted sites and you find out who's hiring, and that becomes a customer list for you. And that's a very important thing. Now, if they're hiring, manufacturers, assistants, or teachers, or whatever, you're going to pass that by. But if it says anything related to software or programming or technology or anything related to that, you need to write that name down. Next, you search local incubator centers. Every community now, it's the newest thing, is to create an incubator center where businesses can come in and start their business at a very, very low cost, and the county will help or the city will help and support them. And if your community has an incubator center, you can find out about that, and you just want to become part of that and go in there and see it, even if you have to rent a space for a month to figure out what's in there and who you can help. There's also a new area called meetup groups, and meetup groups are more driven on a particular software issue or whatever, but meetup groups are very common now. And if you can attend these are open to the public and attend. Even though you may not know what they're talking about, SaaS or whatever software program that they're talking about, or Oracle-based sales or whatever, you should go. You should try to attend those things. And the last item I always like is, if you sniff around college campuses for the help wanted ads, you see who's looking for help. And you'll find most of those are looking for young computer programmers, young people to help them with their data or their cloud services or whatever they're doing. And so write the names down of the firms looking to hire those people. So this is the how in a general sense. Now I'm going to go over some of the tech hot buttons that you're going to need to have in your arsenal when you go out to talk to these folks. And I'm going to run through these fairly quickly. And again, please don't hesitate at any point to call Ellie or me or anyone in our organization to talk about what did he mean by this. And so I'm going to go through it pretty quickly, but don't worry about this. But you need to understand these things, and I'm going to make that very clear to you as we go through it. Project work versus time and material. Well, project work is pretty simple. It means that a computer company or a computer consultant company or software company says, we can do what you want. It will take us 6 months. We're going to charge you $100,000, and that's what's called a project. And it's a fixed price, and it comes in and they say they're going to do it, and they do the work and they get it done, whatever it may be, whatever the customer's looking for. And that's project work. By far and away, most of the work that these software development companies are doing, other than if they're selling software specifically, are doing time and material work. And time and material says, I don't know how much it's going to cost us to do this. I know it typically would take so many months, but I don't have a clue on that. But I'm going to tell you what it's going to cost us per hour to do the work. And we're going to bill you on a time and material basis, meaning that here's our time rate, and if we have to buy any materials, we're going to pass the cost on to you. And that's that's the difference between time and material and project work. And I say this because when you talk to a software company, one of your first questions has to be, do you do project work or do you do time and material work? And so they understand that. And you need to understand that that is the language that they're speaking. Next, government work requiring certain insurance limits. Most software companies, software development companies, computer consulting companies would love to do government work, but government requires certain insurance limits. In some cases, they require $5 million of errors and omissions coverage. In some cases, they provide or they require performance bonds. And it just doesn't matter. But in many cases, it scares the computer consulting company from doing the work. But when you go in there and you ask them, do you do any government work, and they say no, and you say, well, why not? And they go, well, the insurance requirements. In the back of their head, I'm telling you, they're thinking the insurance requirements are too onerous. We're not going to do it. You can resolve that problem with our Wingman 360 or our errors and omissions policy or our cyber policy. So you have the tools now to solve this problem for them, but just recognize that that is a problem that they may not tell you, but is there and real. The second problem related to that is private work requiring insurance limits, because they could have an American Express office that's located in the region, and they would love to do work for them, but they require $5 million limits, or they require large crime policies, or whatever it may be. And as a result of that, the company you're talking to says, I don't do that work because, I just do the small work because I'm afraid of the insurance and I don't want to spend the money. Well, we can provide that, and you can provide that now through our products that we've talked about already, the Wingman and the errors and omissions and all of our various coverage that's involved. And you can do it at an affordable price. And that's the key. You have to tell them that don't be afraid of it. We know what we're doing, and we can do it for you at a reasonable price. And I can guarantee you their local agent that they've been dealing with has told them, oh, that's going to cost $25,000. And so it scares them away, and they don't want to do it. So just keep that in the back of your mind. The next area is they turn down, technology companies often turn down private work due to contractual limitations. And the contractual limitations are always something to the effect of, we hold you liable for everything and anything that goes wrong. And that scares a lot of these computer software guys away, because they read it and they go, oh my gosh, I'm going to be liable for everything. And your answer to that, and you say, don't worry about that, because the contractual limitations, we understand them, we deal with them all the time, and we can insure them for you. We can make sure that you have adequate insurance so you don't have to worry about that, and all at a reasonable cost. So that's another little thing that's sitting in the back of their minds that you have to be sure to remember they're thinking about, whether you realize it or not. Next areas in the back of their mind are the consequences of their software not working. What happens if it doesn't work? And they get sued. Now, this, believe it or not, is the least worry that they have. And I know this sounds crazy, but they always think, well, we know what we're doing and we don't have this issue. But I will show you later on some claims examples that will just counteract that. And any reasonable person, once you explain to them that if your software doesn't do what it's supposed to do and it causes problems because of your errors, well, that's what we do. We provide insurance for that at a reasonable cost. Next area is the liability for cyber claims against the customer. And when I say against the customer, I'm talking about your computer prospect here, your technology prospect is working for a client. And while they're working for the client, they do something that allows somebody from the outside to get into their client's system. And that's their biggest concern, is that they miss something, and that happens. And again, we provide the insurance for that through our programs, and that's what you will know, that is a concern of theirs, and you'll tell them it is. I suspect this is a concern of yours as well, and I can guarantee you it is, because they're all working on something related to somebody hacking into their system, or some virus or something that could occur that they're doing that could affect the system of their customer. And that's why this is important. And the last area, of course, is the most common, is the error that the technology company makes, causing the customer to lose money. And from that aspect, that's where the errors and omissions policy falls in. Again, this is not one of their major concerns as a technology company. They're not sitting there laying up at night worried about this. Those other things they are, but this they're not necessarily, but it does to you because you have to make sure that you've taken care of that properly. So you have to bring it up when you're talking to them. All right. Now, how to talk about risk. So we're going to start off with property. Property insurance, pretty simple. Most of these companies do not own their building, so you don't have to worry about building coverage, but you do have to worry about business personal property. And business personal property is normally today not a large value. And I say that because the reason we like to get, and so when you go into one of these accounts, you should get how many employees they have, and employee counts is important. And because you figure that each employee that they have to spend about $5,000 on equipment for them, whether it be a desk, a computer, a printer or scanner or something, a chair, and they probably have at least a value that they spend per employee of about $5,000. Yeah, they can go less, but employee counts, we like to use $5,000 because even if they go less, the fact of the matter is if they had a fire and they have replacement cost on it, you're going to have to replace it, and you don't know what it's going to cost to replace it today versus when they bought it, and so we're using around 5,000, which is pretty simple. So property risk is not very large, but there is some special issues regarding utility coverage that we need to talk about, and that is that what happens if there's a hurricane and a power outage, and they can't work because of that. That's an issue, and that's a business interruption issue. It could be a situation where the power, there's a surge and it tears up their computers. There's all kinds of things related to utility coverage. It could be lack of water. It could be all kinds of issues. So we focused on that in our Wingman product, and utility coverage is included. And I say that because it's important for you to talk to the client about that. They may not think of this, but I can tell you many claims that I've seen over the years where people cannot go into work because there's no power, caused by an off-premises power failure. And the next area of coverage that you need to look at is coverage at the client sites. And coverage at the client sites we call is sort of third-party coverage because most of the time, if you're a computer consultant company, you could very well be working at the client site. So there's property coverage risk at there as well. So not a lot of property worries here. So I don't want to get you too caught up about it. Wingman 360 deals with all of that. In fact, Wingman 360 has an unlimited property coverage because we just need the employee count, and then we know what property insurance should be there. So that's always very valuable information to have, and it's a very big selling point. How to talk about risk from a general liability standpoint. General liability for a computer consultant or software development company or technology company is about as low a risk on the totem pole as you can find. There aren't many claims that fall within the scope of general liability coverage, so please don't get too hung up with anything about general liability coverage, because what's important for these companies are E&O, but you can't rule it out. The largest claim that we ever really had on a general liability policy was involved a situation where at the time there were no exclusions for I guess you'd call personal injury and advertising type liability related to a company, and the company was an internet service provider that was actually being used by a third party to sell fraudulent goods, and the internet service provider got sued by the owner of the company, and it fell within the personal injury liability part of the general liability policy. It is so flukish that I don't want to emphasize the general liability because it's a slip and fall coverage by most parts. There's not much product liability regarding this. It's all errors and omissions. Just keep in mind that that general liability it has to be there, but it's not something you want to talk a whole lot about from a risk standpoint. But what you do want to talk about is the errors and omissions is what's the key to covering these entities. A technology company is basically its expertise and its potential to cause loss of money of some sort or another. And tech professionals are considered services and not products, so it doesn't fall under the product liability. The E&O policy has to include first and third party issues, and by first and third party issues, I mean that they're working for a client, and if the client does something that hurts their clients, there's a third party risk involved here. So again, our policies cover these things, but I just want to bring to your attention, it's more than just a first party coverage. It's a first and third party coverage. It also relates crime coverage on a standard BOP policy. I should mention has nothing to do with the proper coverage that's needed for a technology company, because a crime policy under a standard BOP policy says we're going to cover you if one of your employees steals from you. But what if one of your employees steals from a customer? And that's where the issue lies. And another add-on to this is that cyber coverage is important, and we include the cyber as part of the E&O coverage. So that's important to know too, because these companies don't think about that, although some are now putting it in contracts that require cyber coverage. But that's just part of as the more and more technology companies that you insure, the more that you'll see, and you'll start looking at their contracts and you'll start understanding what they're looking for. And then you'll see the value of our Wingman 360 because it addresses all of those areas. The other risks you need to talk about when you go into a technology company or a D&O, directors and officers. If the company has investors and a board, the investors and the board are going to insist on directors and officers. This protects them if they get sued for decisions that they make as a director and officer. And again, this is part of our Wingman 360. We've built it in. It's included within the $1 million limit. So if they get sued for that, that's part of it, and that's why it's important. EPL, employment practices liability, is more and more every day is important because of the potential lawsuits that come in involving employment practices. And the last area, and this is again covered within the Wingman 360, and the last area is fiduciary coverage. The perks that they provide top talent today, of course, include 401k plans or pension plans or health insurance plans and all of these things. And as a result, somebody at the company has to become a fiduciary of those plans. And if they screw up, the laws say that the screw up is the person can be held personally liable, and it's not a company that's liable. So you need pure fiduciary coverage. And again, that's part of our Wingman 360. So I want to bring all of these things out to you so you've got the tools when you go out there to know that what you're providing is going to be unbelievable value to a tech customer. And there's such a large market that knowing this is power. So now let's go over some actual claims. First one, computer consultant helping a bank program a new ATM machine. It failed as the ATM machine paid out 10 times the amount that was requested. So if you put 250 in, it paid out 2,500. And the machine only had $250,000 in it, so which is the max it could hold, and it paid that out within 30 minutes. And that was a very interesting claim because we sent letters out to all of the people that got money, and 90% of them said I only got $250 back. So anyway, that's why $250,000 was paid. Second claim we had, software company built a marketing program for a local TV station that was hacked. The information was stolen and then it was ransomed. And the forensics and the ransom and the notification and all of the other expenses came up to $300,000 paid. So these are actual claims that you can take out when you see a customer and you can say to them, these are actual claims that occurred. And it may not affect you, but there's probably something that you've done related to this that could come back. And so that's why it's important that you have the right insurance. Next area, a company hired a computer company to prepare for a major Labor Day online sales promotion. The program failed. It crashed. And as a result, the lost income was $980,000. And that was paid because of the screw up. And the last area, which is probably one of our larger E&O claims, was a company installed a new sales program for a very large sales force over the course of a weekend. And it was going to be ready for Monday morning for the 25,000 salespeople around the country to be able to start selling, going and getting their data and working their customer base. And the program failed. And it was 3 days before it got back up. And $2 million was paid on that. So just to show you, there are actual claims out there, and plenty of them, and that's why insurance is important. And I can't tell you how many people will say to you, I've never had a claim. I don't need this coverage, and you can just pull this out and go, beg to differ. All right, just another rehash over the solution. Wingman 360 is an all-in-one policy. It's designed to avoid insurance agents' errors and omissions claims because it covers everything from property, liability, errors and omissions, directors and officers, EPLI, you name it, we've got it in there, all for a limit of $1 million. So that's a no-brainer for you to go out and immediately talk to a computer technology company and be very, very comfortable in terms of what you're doing. It can't be beat, can't be compared, can't anything. It's the best on the market. Suppose you write a BOP with Nationwide or with your current carrier. Wingman Tech offers an errors and omissions policy, which includes cyber, broadest policy available. Now, by using Wingman Tech errors and omissions, you are ahead of the game with the big boys. Nobody is going to be able to come to you and say they can get a better product. I'm just telling you. You can compete with anybody, anywhere, with any of our products, and it puts you in a whole different league. So keep that in mind. And the last is our flagship product, the Wingman Cyber, broadest cyber policy today. Again, if you take a add-on to a BOP policy and you compare it to Wingman Cyber, you're talking night and day. So keep in mind that a standalone cyber policy is 100 times better than an add-on to a BOP policy. And not only that, but the limits, business interruption, all of the other pieces that are part of it, of a standalone cyber policy, are so much better than those add-ons or endorsements to policies that you should be selling individual cyber policies. And of course, Wingman Cyber is the best out there. So you can, again, play with any big boy around and compete very, very well. There you go. Where do you start? Ellie, I'll turn it over to you from here.
Okay, thanks, Phil. We really thought that was incredibly informative. Guys, if you have any questions, type them onto the screen. I'm going to toss out the first one, and then you guys keep them coming. What would you say to a producer just starting on this would be the first question you would ask when sitting down with a tech company?
First question that I like to ask is, what keeps you up at night? Does anything worry you? Got to probe. You got to understand what worries them. The second question.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
That's all right. The second question that I would follow that up with would relate to how they answer it. But if they say, well, I don't really have anything, and then you have to get in to, do they do project work or time and material work? And then the discussion can take off.
Would you ask about looking at their contracts?
Always. You have to, at some point, look at the contract that they use with their customers, and you have to look at the contract that their customer makes them sign. And you have to look at the liabilities and make sure that they're in compliance, and make sure that there's worded, the wording is correct. And I'm sure that if their contract was drawn up by their own attorney, it's probably fine, but you should just take a look at it to see if anything jumps out at you.
So Jody wants to know if there's a higher limit than $1 million available for tech companies. And I'll take this one if that's okay with you. The answer is, on the Wingman 360 policy, it's $1 million. For tech, E&O, and cyber combined, we can go up to 5. The next question is, the standalone cyber is for any market of business. If they have a tech component, can we add in the other aspect? Amy, the answer to that is yes. The tech E&O form is the cyber with the E&O added on already for you. What's the max revenue limit, Dad?
50 million. Now we can go higher than that. We can go higher than that, but it has to go through more underwriting. So our system can handle up to 50 million, but if it's higher than that, we can still do it. Just put it in the system, and we will. I mean, we've done 300 million in the system. It just takes a few more steps on our end.
Any other questions? I will say, just while I'm waiting to see if there are any final questions, if you have not already signed up to be a part of the Wingman team, reach out to me or Diane at the FCAA to get your paperwork filled out. We are automatically including everybody who signs up access to our tech products if and when they're ready to start selling them. So you let me know when you're ready, and we can get you hooked up in the system to do that. We're really excited on this partnership with Nationwide Agents and the FCAA in particular. You guys are an incredible group. Your questions are fantastic, and your engagement is better than I've ever seen. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Phil, for your insights. And if anybody has any follow-up questions, just let me know, and we'll try to get them answered. All right, I think that comes to our conclusion. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next month for the 3rd in the series, which is Talk to an Underwriter. He's going to talk about what kind of tech companies to go after and how to go after them, what's a good risk and what isn't. So we hope to see you all there. Thank you.